Today, we're diving into something pretty cool. It's a pilot program from the Mount Pleasant Learning Center, and it's a really innovative plan that's trying to solve a growing identity crisis in its field and, really sharpen its clinical focus.
And right away, let's get to the heart of it. This is the big question that's causing a major stir in the world of applied behavior analysis, or ABA. I mean, this question, it really cuts to the core of what these centers are all about and the vital therapy they're providing.
So why this big pilot program? Well, it all kicked off because of two major challenges. First, there's this growing confusion on the outside about what these centers actually do. And second, there was a trend that experienced practitioners were starting to notice on the inside.
This slide just lays it out so clearly, doesn't it? On the one hand, you have the actual clinical ABA model. It's all about data, it's highly structured, it's professional. But then, on the other hand, you've got this growing misconception that it's just a specialized daycare. And that idea, it completely misses the whole point of the intensive therapy that's happening. And get this isn't just some theoretical thing people are debating. It's happening in the real world. National organizations are actually reporting that states are trying to license these highly clinical centers as if they were daycares. When the media starts using phrases like mirroring childcare centers, you've got a serious perception problem on your hands. It threatens the whole foundation of this important work.
So on top of all that external pressure, there was something else brewing inside these centers. The most experienced clinicians, the ones who've been doing this for years, they started noticing what they called a drift in teaching intensity. What does that mean? Basically, the sheer number of active, focused learning opportunities for the kids, it was starting to drop off.
So you're facing these really complex issues from both the outside and the inside. Where do you even begin? Well, the team went all the way back to a core scientific principle to guide their entire approach.
And that guiding philosophy was something called humble behaviorism. Now, it sounds a little academic, I know, but the idea is actually incredibly powerful. It just means that as scientists, you have to be willing to doubt your own assumptions, to question your own practices, and to always be looking for better, more effective ways to do things based on real evidence. It's about constant improvement, not just defending what you've always done.
Okay, so armed with that philosophy, the team put it into practice. They decided to tackle that internal problem first, that drop in teaching intensity, with a really targeted experiment up in their Milwaukee region.
The reason this all matters so much comes down to this number. The entire research foundation for effective ABA is built on a high volume of interaction. We're talking about giving a child hundreds of learning opportunities every single day. That's how you shape meaningful skills, and the practitioners felt this crucial benchmark was starting to slip.
And their approach was so methodical, you gotta love it. In May 2024, they kicked off a huge training push, all about functional communication. By the end of the year, they looked at the data, and yep, it was working. The number of learning trials, those teaching opportunities, was way up. That success then led them to create these special, dedicated rooms focused only on that one critical skill.
So that success in Milwaukee was already a huge step forward. But it was a visit from an outside expert that really turned this targeted fix into a revolutionary center-wide vision.
The big moment came in May 2025. That's when Dr. Genevieve Marshall, a leader from the clinical development team, showed up to see the work in Milwaukee for herself. And she brought a fresh perspective that, well, it was about to change everything.
Dr. Marshall was just blown away. She saw what she started calling an optimized model. You had kids who were constantly engaged in structured learning. You had expert clinicians leading the groups, which meant the quality was super high. And here's the kicker. New technicians were learning on the job just by watching these skilled models, which meant every single kid was getting top-notch treatment. And this right here, this is the aha moment. After seeing how well that focused functional communication room worked, Dr. Marshall asked this simple but game-changing question. What if the entire center was set up like that? What if it was organized by learning domains instead of just, rooms?
And boom, that one single question is what gave birth to the Mount Pleasant Domain pilot. The team heard that idea and they just ran with it, creating a whole formal plan to test out this brand new structure. So here's the plan, broken down into 4 key steps. First, they're going to reorganize the whole building into these learning domains. Second, each one of those domains will focus on a specific skill set. Third, they're going to ramp up the use of expert-led group work inside those domains. And finally, they'll launch the pilot in March 2026 and run it through the summer.
You can see how this model is designed to create this powerful ripple effect, right? The focused structure is meant to directly boost outcomes for the clients.
But at the same time, it helps train the technicians better because they're always seeing best practices in action. And by doing both of those things, the whole plan is built to restore and elevate the center's clinical integrity, which solves the very problem they were trying to fix in the first place.
And that brings us to the final, really provocative thought here. This pilot, it's more than just rearranging the furniture. It's an experiment that's asking a huge question that could affect the whole field. What if the key to unlocking the full potential of this therapy isn't just about what you teach, but how you structure the very environment where all that learning happens? It's a huge question, and this pilot, well, it just might give us the answer.